We want to show you some incredible video we're getting from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. As we know, they've been conducting water rescues throughout the morning in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. And this is video they just posted to social media of a young boy that was apparently floating on a piece of fence. And officers, deputies, I should say, were coming by him. He apparently gets their attention. And as you can see there, calls out for them. They approach him and they are able to get him out of the water safely. Some incredible video. Again, a 14-year-old boy on a piece of fence being dragged out of the floodwaters of Hurricane Milton. We actually want to talk to the sheriff of Hillsborough County now. Sheriff Chad Chronister joins us live. Sheriff, you put this video out on social media. I'm wondering what goes through your mind when you see footage like this?
Listen, I just happened to be on the airboat for that one. That's over 200 rescues we've done and are still actively conducting. We just offloaded a family as I'm standing here by the flooded water. He was waving us down, flagging us down. Most people were saying hello. He was frantically wailing his arms. We went over, and it literally was like a scene out of the Castaway movie, how he's hanging on for dear life. His mom evacuated him to a safer area last night. He was walking home. Didn't realize the water was going to get as flooded as deep as it did, and he's not a good swimmer, and hence the rescue. And he was visibly shaken. I mean, he hugged us. He was just so grateful, and we took him to some dry land. But just one of many rescues we've been conducting today.
Yeah, Sheriff, I'm certain that he's appreciative of the work of your deputies and obviously all emergency rescue personnel across the state. You mentioned more than 200 rescues. Can you give us an idea of whether there have been any serious injuries or any fatalities in Hillsborough County?
Not yet. Not that's been reported to me. We rescued 135 disabled elderly citizens that were relocated from Bradenton. So let's take them to North Tampa, the university area. Let's take them up here because they'll be safe here. I started my career here 33 years ago in this neighborhood. I fell in love with this community right here. And to conduct those rescues where individuals thought that they would be safer here, and now to see the type of flooding that's barely receding. You know, we're very fortunate and blessed we didn't get the storm surge. But the 16 to 18 inches of rain that we got to already heavily saturated areas, there's nowhere for this water to go.
Yeah, Sheriff Chad Chronister of Hillsborough County, it is such a wild scene to see, and so many folks are appreciative of the work that you're doing. Please keep us posted if there's any message you want us to get out there. We very much appreciate your work, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Of course. We want to talk to a federal official now about the response to Hurricane Milton and the effects of this storm. Joining us live is Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. Secretary, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. As Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis put it, this was not the worst case scenario, and yet you were looking at nightmarish scenes in places like Hillsborough County. I'm wondering, from what you've seen, what has stood out to you? What do you make of how Florida handled this powerful storm?
Well, that's exactly right. Some of the worst case scenarios did not materialize, but this is still a massive, massive impact for so many people. Right now, I'm at the National Response Coordination Center, where FEMA brings together all of the different agencies working these issues, from the U.S. military to a department like our Department of Transportation. And of course, we're engaging with the state and local officials on the ground to help support that response. There are now thousands of federal personnel, hundreds just from my department alone, deployed across the two storms, the Helene recovery and the Milton response. We see local officials and Florida's DOT doing extraordinary work, quickly working through inspections to make sure that roads and bridges can be safely reopened. Our FAA is working with airports, about 25 significant airports in the impact area. Roughly half of them still closed, roughly half of them either partially open or fully open. We think more and more of them will be back to normal as we head into tomorrow. And then a real focus on the port of Tampa Bay. This port accounts for about 40% of the oil and energy coming into the state of Florida. Work is getting underway to assess the conditions of the port and see what it will take to get that back up and running. The Coast Guard is leading that work, but with our supply chain team, we're tracking that very closely as well over at the DOT.
Yeah, Secretary, I was wondering about fuel. We've been fortunate to see a number of gas stations open, and it did not appear that there were huge lines, which, as a Floridian, I'm used to seeing after storms, these massive, massive lines outside of gas stations. I'm wondering, as you're coordinating with local and state officials, what you're hearing is the greatest need right now.
Well, remember, right now there's still an assessment stage going on, making sure that people are accounted for. There are wellness checks going on just to understand the scope of impact. Transportation-wise, it really all three of those, sea, air, and land, making sure we get those up and running. The other thing is just to get people good information. Importantly, going into yesterday, a lot of the message that local officials needed people to hear was the message to evacuate. And it sounds like that message was well heeded and that saved lives. Now, in many locations, residents are going to hear a different message. The message will be to stay put until word goes out that it is safe. When you're talking about standing water or other areas where there might be down power lines, still a lot of active hazards. And so you really want to pay attention to good local information from trusted sources about when it is safe to leave if you've been sheltering in place. And of course, so many people wanting to know when it will be safe for them to return home if they did evacuate.
Yeah, Secretary, it's always the threat of what you don't see in either standing water with bacteria or power lines, as you mentioned. Important to heed those warnings. Secretary, while we have you, I do want to ask about the suggestion coming from some that President Biden appoint an active duty commander to respond to some of the storms that we've seen this hurricane season, some of the natural disasters that we've seen. What do you think of that idea?
Well, what I can tell you is that there is work by so many active duty troops, thousands as I understand it, between National Guard and DOD. And what I've seen on display, including is the military and National Guard were briefing their portions just about an hour ago here at FEMA's headquarters, is extraordinary work working through the existing concept of operations that allows what are called Title X forces, U.S. active duty military and National Guard to come into play. I'm sure there'll be more conversations, as always, about how to develop, evolve, or fine-tune the structure for disaster response. But what I've seen is that in and out of uniform, you've got people doing an amazing job working together and working to support those local responders and state and local authorities who are doing everything in their power, both to save lives and to help people get back on that journey toward normal.
It may be a long road for some, but we're glad to hear that progress is being made. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, thank you so much for the update.